Hi guys, I'm Woodcraft Hamster, and I thought I'd just do a quick video today to show you some of my homemade wood finishes. Now you can buy wood finishes from the shops, there's absolutely nothing wrong with them. You can use things like oils, which are obviously all natural. Now I quite like a beeswax finish, but it's not necessarily the best finish for every type of wood and for every type of carving that maybe you've made. So I like to use a combination of beeswax and different types of oils depending on what I'm doing. Now I've got a couple here. I've got a nice piece of beeswax here, which is what I usually use. I've got a couple of different oils. I've got some almond oil and I've got some walnut oil, both of which are food safe, which is obviously useful if you're doing something to do with foodstuffs, whether it's bowls, spoons, that kind of thing. But what I'll do, let me bring the camera a little bit closer in and I'll show you what it is I do in order to make these. Right then guys, so what I tend to do, depends on how much you want to make. I tend to do small batches at a time, just enough for the work that I'm doing. There's no reason you can't make larger batches, leave them in a sealed jar or something like that. But for my purposes, I've got a couple of things I want to try and put a finish on today. And I say I've got two different oils. One is almond, which is a much lighter oil, which is good if you want to sort of preserve the natural, or similar to the natural colour of the wood, and then you've got walnut oil, which is a little bit darker, which leaves does slightly darken the wood, not massively, but it gives it more of a sort of an oiled looking finish. And for my purposes, you can do this in an oven, you can do it on the hob, you can do it in the microwave. Personally, I'm not a big fan of microwaves, I don't own one, but you can put it in a microwave safe dish and blitz it in there. You can put it on a pan, preferably not one of the other half's favourite cooking pans, or you can do what I'm going to do is put it in the oven. And what I do, I get a piece of tin foil like this, normally I don't know, about A3 size maybe, fold it into quarters, wrap it around something to form almost a pot. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the beeswax here, and because I'm going to make two batches with the two different oils, I'm just going to cut it in half. Like so, and what you want to do, the best way I've found to do this is to sort of almost shave the wax. That way you're breaking up the surface area, you're making the surface area a lot smaller, and that way it just melts a little bit easier, a little bit more readily. And again, maybe sort of pieces this kind of size, hopefully you can sort of see that in comparison to my thumb there. You know, you can use larger chunks if you want, there's no issue with doing that. It just means you have to heat them for a little bit longer in order for them to melt. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to finish doing this off camera because this is going to be quite repetitive and boring, and I'll come back when we're ready to add the oil. Right then guys, so that is the wax all carved up. Hopefully you can see that reasonably well there. And the ratio I tend to use of wax to oil is 2 parts wax to 1 part oil. So what I'll do, I'll take the almond oil first. Hopefully I should be able to show you what that looks like. So I've not quite covered the wax that's in there, and that's very, very roughly 2 parts wax to 1 part oil. Do exactly the same with the walnut oil, and all I'm going to do, you can see both of those in there. All I'm going to do now is just pop these straight into the oven. It's running at about 100-120 degrees in there, and all I tend to do is, there's no set time for it, but I just keep an eye on it. So it probably takes 10 to 15 minutes as a general rule for something this sort of size, but keep an eye on it. Maybe give it a stir with the end of a wooden spoon or something just periodically. And I'll come back once it's melted. Right then guys, so that's now done. Slight problem, I obviously didn't fold one of my little tinfoil pots well enough, so my walnut oil spilled out all over my tray, which was useful. So what I do have is the almond oil and beeswax just in here. Hopefully you can see that. Still in very much a liquid state. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to let that cool. And what it should do, once it's cooled down, it will form more of a sort of a very thick paste. and it's that paste that you want to basically be putting onto your piece of woodwork. You can put it on while it's wet like this, while it's in the liquid form. No reason why not. However, it only stays liquid for a very short period while it's cooling. So from my perspective, I would rather keep it, let it cool down. That's how it's sort of intended to be used. And what I'll generally do is heat up my piece of carving, whatever that might be. I'll leave that in the oven at about 100 degrees for no more than 5 or 10 minutes, basically just until it's hot to the touch, not too hot to handle, but kind of almost there. And then when you apply this, it will melt in and sort of soak in because of the warmth a little bit better. But I've actually got a small sort of cookser or noggin cup, which is just over here, which I made recently. I sanded it down the other day, and it's basically ready for finishing. So as soon as this has cooled, I'll come back and I'll show you how it's applied. Okay guys, so I've actually managed to salvage a little bit of the walnut, which is this one. There's not a great deal left, in all fairness, and I've also got the almond one here as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab the cookser out the oven in just a second. I've got a couple of sort of lint-free bits of cloth here. These are basically just taken off of an old shirt that I ruined, and they're really good for sort of applying this sort of thing. And what I'm going to do, although there won't be much of a difference in colour between the two of these, though the walnut oil should be ever so slightly darker, I'm going to use the walnut oil for inside the bowl, and I'm going to use the almond oil for the rest of the cookser. So let me just grab that out of the oven now. As you can see, it is warm. I realise you can't feel that, but it's not too hot that I can't hold it. So hopefully just should start to allow the oil or the wax to penetrate. So if I just take the walnut oil, hopefully you can see, if I can get some out, it's not a paste like you would get from sort of like a DIY shop. It is quite sort of blocky. You can sort of see there, it's similar to how it was prior to us melting it. And all I'm going to do is drop that, is a little bit on the cloth as well. And hopefully you can see, I don't know if it's picking up on the camera there very well, but because it's warm, this is sort of melting into the bowl sort of quite nicely. I'm not sure if the camera is picking that up or not, but there is a definite difference between the bottom part of the bowl and this part where I'm putting my thumb here. Hopefully you can see that. And again, it's a really, really fine colour change. It's not hugely noticeable. And what you want to do is you get a good sort of layer of that on. I mean, I can feel it melting in. As I say, this homemade stuff, it's not as easy to use as potentially something you would buy from a DIY store. That's just because it doesn't have all the chemical additives to keep it kind of in a semi-liquid form. But personally, for me, I find it nice to sort of make my own finishes. You know, there's not really any cost saving buying blocks of beeswax plus whichever oil you're using. You know, you could almost buy a custom or factory made finish for the same cost almost, but I do like making my own. So that's the inside of the bowl, that's the first application. Hopefully between the bowl and the handle area you should be able to see the difference there. And what I'm going to do is, once I've done the outside of the bowl, which I'll do in just a second with the almond wax, I'll pop this back in the oven for a couple of minutes just on a warm heat, just so that the wax sort of starts to penetrate into the wood a little bit. I'll probably give this 3 or 4 coatings. Now this almond wax is still slightly sort of warm inside, so it's coming out much easier. And again, hopefully you can see me do this. It just kind of rubs on sort of fairly easily. The warmer the wood is, the more it will penetrate. And as I say, I'll probably give this a couple of coats today, just to let that wax penetrate in. And what it will do, between the oil and the wax, it will waterproof the wood, which means I can put liquids in this, which is obviously what my intended purpose for it. And it will protect the wood from any kind of liquids, warm liquids, hot liquids as well. Once it's penetrated properly into the wood, it will penetrate, protect from things like coffee and that kind of thing. It will also protect against alcohol, provided you've got built up enough layers on here and then allowed it to sort of properly soak into the wood first. And again, if you find this is a bit of a struggle for you and you're not too keen on you know, the wax hardening too much and becoming difficult to put on, what you can do is you can always pop this back in the oven and let it liquefy. As I said before, you can put this on in the liquid form. It certainly helps if the wood is warm as well. It just allows again to penetrate more, and that's what you need to do with this. You need it to penetrate the wood in order to get the best sort of waterproof finish. So that's a coating of both oils. The inside of the bowl there, as I say, is done with the walnut oil, and it is ever so slightly darker. I don't know if the camera picks up on that well enough or not. The other side is with the almond oil, and again, just to me, certainly standing here, it's visibly lighter. Not huge, it's not a huge shade lighter, but it is definitely noticeable. Right then, guys, well, that was my take on wood finishes. What I use is obviously the oil and the wax mixed together. Hope it was helpful. Happy to answer any questions and comments below. Hit like and subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I hope to see you all next time. Thanks, guys.